Everyone talks about the Israeli-Arab conflict as if it started in 1948, appeared out of thin air, and happened for absolutely no reason except colonialism. That version of history is convenient, emotionally satisfying, and, of course, completely false. You can't understand this conflict without understanding the Balfour Declaration, and that is exactly why anti-Israel propaganda tries very hard to pretend it never happened. Let's fix that. What the Balfour Declaration actually was. On November 2nd, 1917, British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour sent a letter to Lord Rothschild expressing the British government's support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. People love to misrepresent this. Some polite British note about Jews maybe moving to Palestine. No. This was an official policy statement of a major world power during wartime, something close to a diplomatic earthquake. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't casual. It wasn't optional. It was the beginning of a legally recognized framework for Jewish national restoration. Why did Britain issue the Balfour Declaration? Because history is complicated, wars even more so. Key reasons? Geopolitical strategy in World War I. Britain wanted influence across the collapsing Ottoman Empire. Supporting Jewish national aspirations gave London diplomatic leverage at a time when borders were about to be redrawn. The Zionist movement already existed. Contrary to popular myth, Zionism didn't spring up after the Holocaust. Jewish immigration to Ottoman Palestine began in the late 1800s. By the early 1900s, the Jewish community had already founded new towns, revived Hebrew, built agriculture and infrastructure, created political institutions. Britain wasn't inventing a movement. It acknowledged one already on the ground. The Sykes-Picot and McMahon correspondence context. Britain had promised things to multiple parties during World War I, including Arab leaders, French diplomats, Zionist representatives. The Balfour Declaration was part of that messy diplomatic puzzle. The Jews were seen as distinct people, not just a religion, not just a dispersed group, a nation deserving a civic homeland. This was crucial and remains a fact anti-Israel activists desperately avoid. If the story ended with Balfour's signature, fine, but it didn't. The declaration was adopted at the San Remo Conference in 1920, incorporated into the League of Nations mandate for Palestine in 1922, recognized by over 50 nations. Made binding under international law, the mandate system shaped the modern Middle East. Iraq was created, Jordan was created, Syria and Lebanon were created, all based on the same legal mechanisms. Funny how nobody questions those borders. But the moment the same framework produces a Jewish state, suddenly people develop amnesia. Another inconvenient truth propaganda hates. West of the Jordan River, Jewish national home. East of the Jordan River, the Arab national home, Transjordan, today's actual Jordan. The division was drawn in 1921, long before Israel existed. In other words, the Arabs did receive their own political unit. It was created for them. It was part of the same mandate, and it is modern-day Jordan. Whether that state ended up ruled by a foreign dynasty from Mecca, the Hashemites, is a British decision, not an Israeli one. Because the moment you recognize Balfour, you must also accept that Jews have internationally recognized national rights to the land. Not as refugees, not as victims, not as a religion, but as a nation. The conflict didn't begin in 1948. It began when Jews accepted Balfour and Arab leadership rejected it. Zionism wasn't invented after the Holocaust. It was already a major movement before World War I. The mandate intended a two-state solution decades before the UN partition plan, one Jewish, one Arab. Jordan is the first Arab-Palestinian state, created by the same mandate, and ruled by a dynasty imported from Arabia. The accusation, Israel is a colonial project, collapses instantly. The entire region was drawn by colonial powers. You cannot selectively deny one part of the map. So, the simplest propaganda tactic is to act like Balfour is irrelevant, because it's impossible to argue with it. Why Balfour still matters today? You can't debate the conflict honestly without the Balfour Declaration. It defines the legal origin of Jewish national rights. It explains why Jordan exists. It shows how early Jewish settlement really was. It reveals that Arab rejectionism predates Israel. It proves this conflict wasn't caused by the Holocaust. It exposes the colonial double standard in modern rhetoric. Balfour is not a footnote. It's a foundation. It's the foundation. And pretending it didn't happen is not activism, it's propaganda. Next, who the Hashemonites are and why they ruled Jordan. The story of the Hashemonites is one of the most ironic chapters in the Middle Eastern history, a dynasty from Mecca installed by the British, ruling a colony full of Palestinians. That deserves its own deep dive.